Hello, art beaters. Welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. It's been so beautiful here, so I've been enjoying the good weather, and I've been beading a lot, so that's really fun. I was doing some Cellini spiral stitch last night in preparation for this video, and it was a lot of fun, so we'll dive into that. It is our featured technique of the month, so I will be showing you some examples of that pretty stitch and how to do it. It's way easier than it looks. I thought it was going to be a lot more complicated, but super easy. So I will show you how easy it is. So let's talk about Cellini spiral stitch. Oh, I'm so excited. This is such a fun stitch. I was trying it out yesterday. Yesterday was the first time I had ever tried it, and it's way easier than I thought. So I was having so much fun with it. I couldn't stop. So I was kind of stitching away while watching shows and stuff. So lots of fun, really fun stitch, and it is our featured stitch of the month. So we have a really great free downloadable calendar on our blog, and I've got a link to that in the video description as well. And each month is a different technique featured. And so last month's was tubular peyote stitch, and this month's technique is building on that. It's Cellini spiral stitch, and Cellini spiral stitch is a tubular peyote stitch. So same stitch, but the size of the beads and how you add them is what makes that spiral. So I'm going to show you how to do that today, and I'll show you some inspiration, and we do have really good video tutorials for this stitch as well. Cynthia made a tutorial video. I've got a link to it, and it's on our YouTube channel where she shows you how to do the stitch. She's got a video for how to like finish your threads and weave your threads back into the stitch, and Sherry made a video for reversing the stitch as well. And I did want to mention that we do also have a PDF diagram for the stitch as well, which is really helpful, that you can download, print out, keep handy. So if you ever need like a refresher on the stitch or just all of the instructions, it's right there. And it even shows you how to like zip up the ends to make a continuous bangle and how to use end caps. So this is a really great PDF diagram instructions that you're going to want to print out and keep for whenever you decide to do this stitch, and I do have it linked in the video description as well. So yeah, Cellini spiral stitch is a tubular peyote stitch, but like I said, the size of the beads used and how they're added makes that beautiful spiral. And so you can use seed beads and other beads. This is a really beautiful one with, it looks like 11-aught, 8-aught, 6-aught beads, and even some pretty bicones in there as well. And it just makes really beautiful ropes. Look at that, so pretty. I love the inclusion of bicones in these because they really sparkle and glitter. So pretty. We've got a purple one, really pretty. And then this turquoise one is really gorgeous as well. Look at that, so pretty. And you can use just seed beads as well. This one features 15-aught seed beads, 11-aught seed beads in a few different colors, and then 8-aught seed beads right there in the middle of the spiral. And this one does employ the use of that reversing the stitch, which is super easy to do as well. So reversing the stitch can create a point in your designs, so that's really cool. So the stitch is just reversed in the center of the bracelet, and then a little tassel was added too. So super pretty, super fun to like play with the different kinds of beads, different sizes, and different color combos too. That's kind of fun to see how those work out. And you can even reverse the stitch multiple times. So this one is reversed here, reversed again here, reversed again here, and it creates this kind of fun, like almost chevron pattern. So that's really cool. Really fun. I love that. And I did want to show too that you could even just make a small section of it and like showcase it on a ribbon or a little bracelet bangle or something like that, because it is a tubular stitch. It's almost like a hollow rope in the center. And if you were to use something like silk ribbon, you could just put your ribbon on a big eye needle and then just get it right through that rope. And it's super easy. You can pick different colors. So really fun. So pretty. So Cellini spiral stitch, there is all kinds of options for that stitch. And it looks just so elegant, so pretty. And it's super easy to do. So we do have this bracelet is on our website with free instructions and a supplies list. And this is the bracelet that Sherry is making in her reversing Cellini spiral stitch video. So pretty. And we do have a giveaway to go along with this month's featured technique. We're having a Cellini spiral stitch giveaway. It is open now. I picked out some seed beads in various sizes but matching colors, so you could get started with this stitch. Some matching Miyuki beading thread and some tulip beading needles, some of the best beading needles around. So really pretty seed bead colors. Again, those various sizes. Aren't those pretty colors together? Some fun purples and pinks, and then the matching beading thread and tulip beading needles. So really great prize to get started with the Cellini spiral stitch. This giveaway is going on this month. It is on our website now, on our giveaways page. I've got a link to it in the video description. But if you just type in giveaways in the search box at artbeads.com, that page should pop up. So don't miss that giveaway. It's a really good prize. You could get some really pretty seed beads to try out Cellini spiral stitch. So I'm going to kind of show you how easy this stitch is, because like I said, I had never done it until yesterday because I was always intimidated by it. I thought it would be one that was a little more difficult and like you would have to pay more attention to the beads you're adding. So I just kind of put off learning it. But after doing tubular peyote stitch last month, I wanted to give this one a try. And it's so easy, really fun stitch, addicting too. Also, take a look at these cute scissors. Aren't these adorable? We have these on our website. They look like a little bird. I love them. So make sure to check those out. I have a link to those scissors too. I think they're just so cute. I want to use them for my cross stitch projects. So much fun to have a cute pair of scissors. So I'm just going to cut a length of thread. I've got a beading needle here, and I've got a few different sizes of seed beads that I'm going to be using. But first I got to thread my needle. Always the hardest part, right? Super cool. Okay, so I've got my thread on the needle. That was pretty painless. So I've got 15-aught seed beads here. These are 3 different colors of 11-aught seed beads and then 8-aught seed beads. This is one of our designer seed bead blends. I believe this is called Silver Slipper. So cute. Is that a straw in the little one? Oh, so that's something when you're forming the rope. This is just a rolled up sticky note. This is actually really helpful for a stitch like this, to put this in your rope while you're stitching it, because it just helps. It helps the rope keep your shape as you're going, and it helps you kind of see where you're going. So that's just a little tip for while you're stitching. Roll up a little sticky note for the inside of the rope, and then it will kind of just fit that size. You could use like a pencil or a marker if it's the right size too, but that just helps you form that rope a little easier while you're stitching. So that's why it has kind of like a stick going through it. Okay, so to start this stitch, it is a tubular peyote stitch. So you're going to start by forming a ring of seed beads. So I'm going to start with 4 of my smallest beads here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to do 2 of each of the next colors. So 2 of these peachy copper 11-aught seed beads, 2 of these teal 11-aught seed beads, if I can pick one up. There we go. Two of these more dark copper colors. 1, 2. We do sell these trays too. I like how these little triangle trays line up. They're super fun. Okay, and then 2 of those A-dot beads. And then once you've got those A-dot beads added, I'm going to add 2 of the last 3 11-aught colors that I just added in reverse order. And that's going to get your color pattern established. I'm having such trouble picking up beads today. There we go. One and 2. Okay, so that's going to be my color pattern. I've got 4 of the 15-aughts, 2 of each color of 11-aught, and then 2 of the 8-aught, and then 2 of each color of the 11-aughts in reverse order. So now I'm going to make a ring with these seed beads by going back through the seed beads from the end where I started to make a little loop. So cute. Okay, so I'm going to loop back through those seed beads to form a ring. And actually, I'm actually going to pull these seed beads down a little more on my thread. I'm going to leave a good amount of tail thread that I can weave back into the rope when I'm done, to kind of tie it off and secure it. But we're going to go back through all of these beads to form a loop. And so this is just like starting a tubular peyote stitch. Do, 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 do. Okay, I've got those. I've got my little ring formed. So cute. And I'm actually going to just tie in a little knot with my tail and my working thread, because that just really secures your loop. I guess you don't have to, but I like to. Just keeps everything in place there. So I've got my ring formed. So I'm going to take that thread and I'm going to go back through all of those first 4 15-aught seed beads that I added. Okay, so my thread is coming out of that last 15-aught seed bead. Now, so this is the cool thing about this Cellini spiral stitch, and what makes it easier than I thought it would be, is the bead that you're coming out of, that color and size, that's the bead that you're going to add in this stitch. And this is done just like tubular peyote stitch. So since I'm coming out of a purple 15-aught, I'm going to pick up a purple 15-aught. And then I'm going to do tubular peyote stitch like I normally would, and skip over that first peach bead and go through the next peach bead. Okay, so since I am coming out of this peach bead, that's my indicator to pick up another peach bead. I'm going to skip over that first teal bead, come through that second teal bead. Now I'm coming out of that second teal bead, so that means I'm going to pick up a teal bead. And then I'm going to skip over that first copper bead and go through the second copper bead. So since I'm coming out of that copper bead, I'm picking up a copper bead, skipping over that first 8-aught bead, and then going through that second 8-aught bead. I'm coming through and I'm coming out of an A-dot bead, so I'm going to pick up another A-dot bead, skip over that first copper bead, go through the second copper bead. So this is just like tubular peyote stitch, but the way we're adding the beads is what makes the spiral. I'm coming out of a copper 11-aught bead, so I'm going to pick up a copper 11-aught bead, skip over that first teal bead and go through the next teal bead. Coming out of a teal bead, so I pick up a teal bead, skip over that peach bead, go through the next peach bead. I'm coming out of a peach bead, so I'm going to pick up a peach bead, skip over that first 15-aught bead, go through the next 15-aught bead. I am coming out of a purple 15-aught bead, so I'm going to pick up a 15-aught bead, skip over the next 15-aught bead in the ring and go through the next 15-aught bead. And I'm back at the beginning of my row after I add this stitch. So what I'm going to do to continue is step up. So that was the first bead that I added to this row. I'm going to go right through that bead to step up the stitch. Oh, it is really easy, Chris. You can do it too. So you can kind of see that I've got my first 3 rows established, and you can kind of see that spiral is starting to form. It's very exciting. So we're ready to start the next row. So since I'm coming out of a purple 15-aught bead, that's the bead I'm going to add to my thread. And I'm going to go through that next peach bead. So I'm coming out of that peach bead. I've picked up a peach bead since that's the color I'm coming out of, skipping over that teal bead in the previous row and coming through the teal bead in the row that I'm on. Coming out of a teal bead, I'm going to pick up a teal bead. Yeah, you can reverse the stitch, Marisol, and it's super easy. So coming out of a teal bead, picked up a teal bead, I'm going to go through that next copper bead in the row. And then this is where the rope will start to kind of form. I'm coming out of a copper bead, so I'm picking up a copper bead. And then I'm going to go through that next 8-aught bead in the stitch. So coming out of an 8-aught bead, I'm going to pick up an 8-aught bead, go through the next copper bead in this stitch. Coming out of a copper bead, so I'm going to pick up a copper bead and go through that next teal bead in this stitch. Oops. I bumped my camera. Sorry. Yes, so I started with 15-aught seed beads, and then these are all 11-aught, and then the white, golden white beads are 8-aught beads. So I've got 3 sizes here that I'm working with, 15-aught being the smallest. But you could start with 11-aughts if you didn't want to work with 15-aughts. Use your 11-aught beads as the start, and then do like 3 colors of 8-aughts and maybe make a 6-aught bead. Your biggest bead, or you can even use, like, I was contemplating using like little 2mm fire polished beads, or even bicones. This one has bicones, so don't be afraid to play around with the different beads that you use in this stitch, because you can make all kinds of different textures and combos based on the beads you use. So I'm coming out of a teal bead, I'm gonna go through that peach bead, next peach bead in the row. Coming out of a peach bead, I'm going to pick up a peach bead since that's the color I'm coming out of. Go through that next purple bead in the row. coming out of that purple bead, that 15-aught bead, picking up a 15-aught bead. These are so small. And since I'm at the start of the row too, I'm going to step up again. Make sure you don't get your tail caught in there. So I'm at the start of the row, so I'm ready to step up. I'm going to step up in that first 15-aught bead that I added to the row. So now I'm ready to add another row. So you can kind of see that my rope is starting to form, and the more rows you add, the more you'll see that pretty spiral start to shape up. So then I'm coming out of that first 15-aught bead. Yeah, it is almost impossible to lose your place in counting where you are because the beads kind of lead you, which is really nice. So that's why it's such a fun stitch. It's easy to not get lost, like you said. So I'm coming out of a peach bead. I'm going to add a peach bead and go through that second teal bead. Coming out of a teal bead, so I'm going to add a teal bead, go through that second copper bead. Coming out of a copper bead, so I'm going to add a copper bead, go through that second 8-aught bead. Yeah, so if you're intimidated by this stitch, go for it because it's way easier than it seems, and the result looks like really complicated and intricate, but it is so easy. So I'm so glad this was our featured technique this month because it gave me an opportunity to try it and show you guys how easy it is too. I really like it. I can't wait to do more with this. Coming out of a teal bead, so I'm going to add one. Yeah, you can start to see it spiral. See that? Woohoo! Coming out of a peach bead, so I'm going to add another peach. And go through that second 15-aught bead. So since I'm coming out of the 15-aught bead now, I'm going to add a 15-aught and come through that last 15-aught. And I'm getting to the point where I can finish the row and step up all in one stitch. So that's what I'm doing here. I've completed the stitch and I'm also stepping up into that first seed bead that I added to the row all at the same time. So once you get comfortable with it, you can totally combine that last stitch and that first step up of the next row. So yeah, you can kind of see my spiral is starting to form here. That's so exciting. I love as you add more and more rows, you see the spiral start to form up. And as you keep going, that spiral will keep going too. It's a lot of fun. So I'm coming out of 15. I'm going to add a 15 and go through that second peach bead. Coming out of a peach bead, so I'm going to add a second peach bead, go through that second teal bead. Yeah, you do have to try it for sure. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, way easier than it looks. I was totally able to do this while watching my shows. I was watching Big Brother last night, and then I had to watch some Outlander, rewatch some Outlander. I love Outlander. So super easy to keep up with the stitch while you're watching shows. And you know, sometimes where I found I would mess up on this stitch is I would like mess up and add, like, so I'm supposed to add an 8-aught here and go through this copper. Sometimes I would accidentally add a copper since that was the bead I was going through. But it is really easy if you catch it to go back. You just, you would take your needle off your thread and then pull the stitches that are wrong until you get to where you made the mistake, and then you can just work your way back to that point again. So super easy to fix your mistakes if you do happen to mess up, and it's pretty easy to see, especially like if you get through a row and go to the next row, you'll see that like, oh, there is a misstep in the pattern. So you actually can't get very far if you do mess up without noticing. So that's nice, and it is easy to go back and fix. How do you determine the length of the thread? What happens if your thread runs out? Good question, Joy Ann. So I just like to pull like an arm span length of thread to work with. So like 3 feet is probably a good length to work with. And if you feel like you're running out, don't worry, you can add more in. And Cynthia does have a video tutorial for that as well on our YouTube channel. So what you would do, I would probably, if you got to about like this amount of thread, like maybe like a foot left of thread or like 6 inches, make sure you don't run out too far before you start the process of adding in new thread. So if you're running out and you know you're going to have to add more thread, make sure you have enough where you can weave it back in to the beads. So what you're going to do is weave it back into the beads and loop it around following that bead path several times. And you can knot between the beads if you want to, but looping it around a lot of times will actually secure the thread really nicely on its own, because you're going to catch those threads within the bead path. And then you can just trim your thread really close to the rope, and then you would add a new thread in the same way. And we do have a video for how to do that if that sounds confusing to you. There is a visual available to you. I've got a link to it in the video description, I believe, but I can always link it to you too after we're done here. So I've started the next row. So you can see my spiral is starting to form, so that's very exciting. So I could keep going and going with this, and it would be a beautiful spiral rope that will eventually look something like this. Now to reverse the stitch, really easy. So you can see like every time to spiral, every time we are adding a bead, it's the bead we're coming out of. To reverse the spiral, you would just reposition your thread. So let's say I would want to reverse the spiral right here. My thread is coming out of that purple bead to the right. You would just reposition your thread to come out of the purple bead from the left and turn the spiral around the other way. So it'd be the same principle, just weaving the other way around. So this would be clockwise versus counterclockwise, or you know what I mean. So that's all you have to do to reverse the stitch. And you can do that once to make a center point in your stitch, or you can do it multiple times as seen here. So this is multiple places where the spiral is reversed to make multiple points, which that's a really cool look actually. That'd be fun to do. The length of the project, I think. Really fun. So yeah, that's all you have to do to reverse the stitch, is just reposition your thread to go the other way. Super easy. And then you would just do the same, where whatever bead you're coming out of, that's the bead color and size you add to the stitch next. So super easy stitch, and the result is something that looks super intricate. So really fun Cellini spiral stitch. I hope that helps you get started with the stitch. I know I'm thinking that I want to make some pieces in Halloween and Christmas colors. I think that would be really fun. So maybe that's my next project. They're just so pretty and they're so fun and easy to do. And like I said earlier, if as you're stitching, you want to make sure that you're getting that rope shape really nice, just roll up a sticky note and put it inside in the center of your rope. And then that'll help you keep the form or the shape of your rope as you go. And it really helps you visualize too. So if I put this one in here, it helps you see like, oh, I'm on the right track with my spirals. So cute. Oh, I can't wait to keep going with these colors. They're really pretty. So that's the Cellini spiral stitch. Check out all of those video tutorials, the PDF diagram. We've got so many resources to help you. I've got links to all of them in the video description. We've even got really pretty pieces in our design studio to help you get inspired. And make sure to head to our giveaways page to enter our Cellini spiral stitch giveaway. We're giving away some seed beads in various sizes to get you started with the stitch, and they're all in pretty matching colors, as you can see. And then also some tulip beading needles, some of our favorite beading needles, and beading thread to match. So that's all you need to get started with the stitch. Super fun. So let me know if you have any more questions on that stitch. Super fun. Like I said, the first time I did it was last night, and I'm already pretty confident with it. So super easy stitch to pick up and learn, especially if you know tubular peyote, because it is tubular peyote. It's just the bead sizes change, and that's what makes the spiral. So really fun. I hope you try it. And if you do, share. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. It was so great to see you all with your comments and saying hi. I appreciate all of your comments. So sweet to see you guys every week. And I hope this has inspired you, and I will see you next week. Bye. Have fun.